We, the members of the Polk County Sheriff's Office, are committed to excellence in providing law enforcement, detention, and public safety services. In partnership with our community, we will serve with integrity, compassion, accountability, and professionalism. December 29, 2022. Convicted felon charged with first-degree murder for the Christmas Eve killing of his wife. Polk County Sheriff's Office detectives charged 39-year-old Ronald Lockett, Jr. of Lakeland for first-degree murder, F1, of his wife. 39-year-old Shamika Lockett. Ronald Lockett, Jr. is a registered felon who has served 2 prison sentences. One for battery in 2011, and then again in 2020 for battery, burglary, possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, and fleeing from law enforcement. A family member of Shamika Lockett went to Ms. Lockett's home near West Patterson Street in Lakeland on December 24 to check on Shamika and found her unresponsive and on the floor in a bedroom. The family member called 911. PCSO detectives arrived around 8:30 p.m. and found the victim had been fatally shot. During the investigation, detectives learned that Ronald Lockett was on pretrial release conditions for aggravated battery domestic violence, F2, and knowingly driving without a license, M2, and prohibited from contacting Shamika. He violated those conditions when he picked her up from her place of employment around 1:30 a.m. that morning. Lockett then drove Shamika home. When detectives interviewed family members in the home, they told detectives that they heard the couple arguing, followed by a noise they described as a pop. During a search of the home, detectives located 27 rounds of ammunition and Ronald Lockett's identification card. Also located inside the home was a container with a white powder that tested positive for ecstasy. The next day, detectives found Ronald Lockett at a different residence in Lakeland. Lockett admitted to detectives that he picked Shamika up from work and took her home, but he denied any involvement in the murder. Lockett also told detectives that he sold ecstasy pills to make extra money. Lockett was initially arrested for possession of ammunition by a convicted felon, F2. Possession of ecstasy, F3. Possession of drug paraphernalia, M1. And violation of pretrial release conditions for aggravated battery domestic violence, F2. And knowingly driving without a license, M2. Following the results of the autopsy, which determined the cause of death a homicide, detectives additionally charged Lockett with first-degree murder. He is still in the Polk County Jail and being held with no bond. Lockett's criminal history includes 10 felonies and 24 misdemeanors for numerous domestic violence battery charges, burglary, possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, DUI, false information to a law enforcement officer, resisting an officer, fleeing from law enforcement, possession of marijuana, failure to appear, violation of probation. February 24, 2023. PCSO investigating triple shooting in Poinciana. 1 suspect deceased. 2 victims in critical condition. The Polk County Sheriff's Office is investigating a triple shooting that occurred around 4:15 p.m. on Thursday afternoon, February 23, 2023, on Sawfish Drive in Poinciana. That resulted in the death of the adult male suspect and critical injuries to 2 victims, an adult male and adult female. That afternoon, PCSO received a 911 call from a home on Sawfish Drive regarding a shooting and a vehicle crash. Deputies arrived and located victim 1, who had been shot multiple times, including in the face. He was standing in the street seeking assistance after crashing his Nissan Altima into the yard across the street. Victim 1 is a 30-year-old black male, and is currently in critical condition and considered unstable at a local hospital. Deputies located victim 2 still sitting in the Nissan. A 19-year-old black female who was shot in the face. She's also in critical condition and in stable condition at a local hospital. These 2 victims had been sitting in the Nissan parked the driveway of a home on Sawfish Drive when an altercation ensued between the suspect, Derek Isbacode, DOB August 29, 89, and other victims. Bacode came to the home to confront victim 3, who he had called earlier and requested to meet so they could fight regarding a girlfriend in common. When Bacode arrived at the scene, he walked up to the house and was greeted in the driveway by victim 1. When victim 3 approached Bacode to greet him, Bacode punched him. As the altercation escalated, Bacode pointed a handgun at victims 3 and 4, and shots were fired at Bacode by victim 5 from the area of the garage. Victim 4, who lives in the home, retreated inside to be with his children, ages 3, 4, 9, and 12 years old. For unknown reasons Bacode then turned towards the Nissan and fired multiple rounds into the car. Victim 1 drove away slowly, crashed into the mailbox of the house next door, crossed the street, then went through a fence across the street, and came to a stop in the yard. Deputies found Bacode deceased in the front yard of the Sawfish Drive home. Victims 3 and 5 fled the scene, while victim 4, the resident of the home, remained and cooperated with the investigation. Victim 4 told deputies that he witnessed the altercation between victim 3 and Bacode in the driveway, and that Bacode also pointed the gun at him. He did not see the shooting itself, he ran inside to protect his kids. He heard multiple rounds being fired after he retreated into the house. The investigation is ongoing. Previously released information about the home on Sawfish Drive, which appears at this time to be unrelated to the shooting. Deputies were called to investigate an incident that occurred on Sawfish Drive earlier in the week, on Sunday, February 19, when the victim, who is referred to as victim 4 above, who lives there, called to report a theft and battery. The victim told deputies that he and several acquaintances were hanging out in the garage when one of the acquaintances, Philip Vasquez, DOB January 7, 1991, of Haines City, began messing with the victim's handgun, unlocking it and racking the slide. The victim asked Vasquez to leave, at which time Vasquez said he was not going to leave until they fought, because of an alleged disputed relationship with a woman. Vasquez then battered the victim and left with the other acquaintances. Prior to contacting PCSO, the victim looked around his home and discovered cash, a debit card, a television, and a shotgun missing. He reported the battery and the thefts, and an investigation ensued. Vasquez denied the allegations, but he did tell deputies that he and the victim were having problems due to an alleged relationship with a woman. While detectives were interviewing Vasquez, he became increasingly angry and combative, making threats against law enforcement and telling them they were going to have to kill him. As Vasquez repeatedly attempted to go inside the house, deputies attempted to detain him, and he actively resisted. Vasquez was taken into custody and charged with armed burglary with assault, FL, resisting arrest, M1, 3 counts, threatening a public official, M1, 3 counts. Vasquez has a prior conviction for battery on a Leo in 2016. During a search of his residence, deputies located the victim's stolen loaded shotgun. Deputies filed additional charges of possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, F2. Possession of ammunition by a convicted felon, F2. He remains in the Polk County Jail under no bond. April 3, 2023. PCSO catches 3 men burglarizing cars in Dundee. A car alarm alerted a Dundee neighborhood to car burglars early Monday morning, April 3, 2023. which resulted in the arrests of the 3 men by the Polk County Sheriff's Office. At about 12:27 a.m., PCSO deputies along with drone and K-9 units responded to the Ridge of Dundee subdivision after one of the victims reported 3 suspects wearing dark clothing and backpacks. The drone unit spotted a suspicious black Chrysler 300 in the area and it was stopped by deputies. Inside the car were 3 men matching the description given by the victim. The men were in possession of face coverings, burglary tools, and computer equipment and purses stolen from the burglarized vehicles. All 3 men were arrested and charged as follows. ARZ Job Clowers, 18. Dundee. Charged with burglary of conveyance, F3, 2 counts. Attempted burglary of conveyance, F3. Conspiracy to commit burglary, F3. Possession of burglary tools, F3. Grand theft, F3. Petty theft, M2. And violation of juvenile probation. Armando: 19. Haines City. Charged with burglary of conveyance, F3, 2 counts. Attempted burglary of conveyance, F3. Conspiracy to commit burglary, F3. Possession of burglary tools, F3. And petty theft, M2. Isaiah Dillon, 19. Haines City. Charged with burglary of conveyance, F3, 2 counts. Attempted burglary of conveyance, F3. Conspiracy to commit burglary, F3. Possession of burglary tools, F3. Petty theft, M2. A warrant for failure to appear. And a citation for driving while license suspended/revoked. The investigation is ongoing and more charges are anticipated. What a perfect example of see something, say something. And how well it can work. Deputies were notified immediately and given a good description of the suspects. It was a great job by the witness and the responding deputies. Grady Judd, Sheriff. Equality before the law, also known as equality under the law. Equality in the eyes of the law, legal equality or legal egalitarianism, is the principle that all people must be equally protected by the law. The rule of law is a political ideal that all citizens and institutions within a country, state, or community are accountable to the same laws, including lawmakers and leaders. It is sometimes stated simply as no one is above the law.